Hi, this is Trinesha and today I wanted to talk about good deeds. So, what made me want to talk about good deeds is earlier today I was listening to a sermon, and the pastor, she was talking about being boastful. And at first I was thinking, well, maybe I can call this boastful. And then I was like, I felt something in my spirit as I read the Bible, and it talked about good deeds and it talked about faith. And I felt like I could intertwine both if that's the way that it flows in the video. If not, you know what my intention was. And so when I think about what good deeds are, most of the time you think about it something like, oh, you did something really nice for one person and now you feel good about yourself. Like maybe you served at a soup kitchen, or maybe you helped a less fortunate person one time, or something like that. But you don't think about the fact that a good deed could be you helping out a family member or a friend. And I don't mean you're always the go-to person that always bails them out for everything because they don't want to take responsibility. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying that sometimes we think about what it is that we want to do that is a good deed, and it only surrounds people who we see as someone who would need a good deed. Like maybe we see someone and we're like, oh, this will make me feel better, instead of doing it out of the kindness of your heart. Or if you are doing it out of the kindness of your heart, that's great. But really, truly think about the good deeds that you could do in the workplace. Maybe you hold the door for someone. Maybe you help someone one day when they don't have lunch and maybe they're struggling or something. Maybe you're the person who makes sure that if your friend is like working all these jobs and it just seems like, all the money's going towards bills and she really wants to get presents for her kids for Christmas, and you are in a position where you could help, you help. Maybe it's like you have that friend who is going to work and they need a ride and they don't have a car, but they're willing to work. And so a good deed would be you taking them to work. Maybe it is you are getting rid of a bunch of food in your house. You know how they say the average American throws away so much food every year. Imagine if it's something that you really, really don't like, but you got it because you were thinking, I'm gonna make this one specific recipe that you're never gonna cook. When you have food like that in your house, why don't you put it in a bag, some kind of grocery bag or something, and then give it to someone who's less fortunate? Give it to a local church, give it to a local food bank, give it to places like that, because they're always looking for people to donate things like that so that they can help other people in the community. And one of the things I heard in a sermon that really touched my heart was they said that it's really strange sometimes how you can see somebody in church every Sunday, or see them go to Bible study, but they aren't part of any group, or they're not helping in another way in the church. And sometimes we think just being in attendance means that you're helping other people or that you are in faith. But you forget that being in faith could be helping when they have like to cook for the church, or when they have like an event at the church, helping them plan it. And it doesn't have to be just in the church. It could be at a school. Maybe they need more volunteers at school. Maybe there's something else going on. There's so many different ways to serve and to do a good deed in the world. And there's so many people. If we all were willing to serve or to do a good deed, we would be so much better off. You know how much impact we could have on the world if each one of us did something for someone else. And I know sometimes it's hard because we always talk about me, me, me. Like, what can I do for myself? How can I, you know? But helping other people really does help yourself. It not only shows, and I don't mean just helping them like, gotta help this person again. Like no, do it with a grateful heart. Do it with a cheerful spirit. Do it in the way that God intended for you to do it. When you're serving, serve with a joyful heart. Serve like, how can I help you? Not like, oh, here we go again. Like, if you were like that, why would God feel like he could trust you with anything? Why would he want to give you more if you can't even act right in this situation? He can't take you nowhere. You know how they used to say that? I can't take her nowhere. Like, just don't know how to act. Like, you ain't never been anywhere before. Like you've never been anywhere. And so we have to really act like we've been somewhere before. Like, God is taking us places, not just acting like we don't know how to act. because sometimes we get into this comfortable situation and we just feel like, well, I'm good, that's fine. They got to get it like I got it. But you fail to realize that there were people along the way that God sent in your life that did a good deed for you. You have people in your life that served you when you were less fortunate, or maybe you were just just getting into the world. Not everybody starts at the top. Some people have to work their way up. And even then, even if you have to find your footing, or even if you already are established in one way or another, there's other things that you have to learn in the world, and not everybody just knows everything or just has everything. Sometimes that comes through life experiences, and those experiences usually come from other people. So don't forget where you came from, thinking that you'll never need someone ever again, because you're always going to need someone no matter what position you're in. You could be the richest person in the world, but you might still need a spouse. You might be the most knowledgeable person in the world, but you might still need money. Or you might still need, like, maybe you're smart enough to think of all these ideas but not smart enough to execute it. Maybe you need someone to help you execute it. Maybe you're the type of person who is good at, showing people how to be single and being confident in themselves, but you need help when it comes to building relationships of any type in your area, of any sort. So we all need somebody. So if we all need each other, then why not serve joyfully? Why not serve from the place that God intended you to serve? And the pastor earlier, when she was talking about being boastful, She she really hit on a good point, and I feel like this is so relevant because I see it happen all the time. And even in these videos, sometimes I'll talk about how there will be people, sorry, every time I'm talking, it's like my throat starts to clog up, or it starts to get like really, really like dry, and I'm like, okay, I gotta, do a couple things to get this straight so I can make sure I'm not like like I got laryngitis or something. But anyways, so like I would say in these videos, I would always be like, we always try to make it seem like Christians are broke. And I really want to just nip that in the bud and make it so that people can see Christians as successful. And she didn't say it in that way, but she did give an example. And I think this is why a lot of Christians are broke. I know people might not agree with me, but this makes a lot of sense. So she said that, it always says don't be boastful. But she said it's nothing wrong with being boastful in the Lord. And I think that's so true, because we shouldn't be boastful ourselves. We shouldn't be the ones that's like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling myself. I'm all that. Like, it's okay to be confident, but not arrogant. It's okay to believe in yourself, but you don't have to crush other people to believe in you, or make it seem like it's you or them. It's you and them. They can be successful and you can be successful. Your success is not hindered on somebody else's success. It does not hang in the balance, like once someone else succeeds, all of a sudden you'll never be able to succeed, or someone gets a position, all of a sudden you'll never work anywhere. Like, there's plenty of jobs. Don't act like this is the only position in the world that you gotta compete and try to tear someone else down for it. Don't act like this is the only job available, like you will never be able to work anywhere else ever again, and so you need to be disrespected in the work environment, or you have to stay in a place that doesn't treat you well. Don't act like this is the only guy who ever walked the face of the earth, and all of a sudden, because this one guy doesn't want you, now all of a sudden you're missing out on something and you're never going to find another guy. Out of what was it? I did like the study and stuff. I went through and like researched how many. I know people are gonna judge me for this, but I was watching this video and this person on there was like, research how many men are in the world, and then it said, this is how many men are single. Like, when you divide that by two, that's how many men are single in this world, and it was like 1.5 million or something like that. I can't remember. It was something like that. And I was like, that's a lot of men to be worried about this one man. You know, it really is. And I don't mean that to like negate someone, how special someone is, or to make it seem like no one is important or whatever else. I just mean like, when you put things into perspective, when it comes into like, if you're a numbers person, or if you're the type of person who really truly feels like because one person didn't like you, all of a sudden now you're chopped liver. Like, and some people like chopped liver, but I'm just saying that does not mean anything. That's just one person's opinion. That's not everybody's opinion in the whole world, you know? And even if it's almost everybody's opinion, if there are two or three guys that like you only need one of them. So it's really, really not that bad. And just same for men. I always have to say this because I don't want to make it just seem like I'm just trying to like say, oh, women, you don't have to worry, because some men do the same thing and it's like, oh, this is the only woman in the world, and they just put up with a lot of stuff, and it's like you really deserve to be treated so much better than that. But they just it's they like the way that people look at them when they're with this person. They like the fact that this person acts like they don't care because they really don't care about them, and stuff like that. And there's so many other women in the world for you to be worried about the one who really doesn't want you or that is using you. And I'm just saying in general, I'm not, like I said, not downplaying any one person's significance in someone's life. I'm just saying in general, just so that you can kind of get an ideal. And so when it comes to things like that, I think that is what makes us with this scarcity mindset. That is what makes us feel like we are at lack of something, because we are always thinking that our significance, our blessings, the things that God graced us for, the things that we're going to get that are for us, hangs on the balance of one other thing. But it doesn't, because what God has for us is specifically made just for us. Nobody else can take that away from us. There could be you and 100 other women, but if this is the man that God appointed and graced for you, he's going to be yours. You don't have to go doing the most just to try to prove that you're the best out of 100. You just have to be yourself, and he will know that you are the one. Like, he's not just going to point you out the crowd. I mean, that could happen in reality, but you know, he will know. He will know that you are someone that he should get to know. You don't have to like do anything extra, change your whole style. And I mean, if your style doesn't look good and you want to updo your style because you want to feel more confident, that's different. But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to like be barely in anything just to try to make this guy become the one for you, because he might think that you're not worth settling down because he doesn't have to really put an effort in to get with you, or it seems like he might have to, but it wouldn't look like that. I don't know. I'm not trying to get on anybody, because I know some people dress like that, and that's their own thing. That's great. Not trying to make anybody feel badly for being who they are. I also want to make sure that people who have every intention of trying to be in an intentional relationship know that if you want someone to take you serious, you have to take yourself serious. And I don't mean that like I'm trying to make you feel badly. I mean it in a really think about the type of reactions you've gotten. Think about the type of men that you're attracting to you, the way that you're dressed now. And that's for people who dress frumpy and people who dress overly, with barely anything. Both people. Because if you don't feel confident in yourself, then other people aren't going to feel like you are confident, or they won't feel that attraction. And I don't mean you have to be like the baddest thing walking. You can be somebody that holds a decent conversation that looks good. Like you look average or whatever, and whatever average is. I'm not saying you look good or bad. Everybody has a type. So even your average could be somebody's type. Even your bad could be somebody's type. Even your good could be somebody's type. I'm just saying in general. And I'm not saying that like I'm a relationship person. I'm just saying that when you really truly want to be intentional about your life, you have to take responsibility for yourself. Like if I am constantly always being invulnerable, and then I expect someone to be committed to me or to treat me the right way or to open up to me, how could I ever expect someone to do that if I'm not being vulnerable? If I am not in a position where I'm ready to commit, how can I expect any person to commit to me? And fun fact, so I was listening to another sermon. I know I binge watch them now. Like if you had told me 15 years ago I'm not trying to tell my age, but but if you had told me 15 years ago that I was going to be in church every Sunday, in Bible study every week, listening to gospel music and binge watching sermons, I would have said, yeah, right. Like I would have been like, what are you talking about? I would have really thought that something I would have been like, they don't know what they're talking about. What in the world? Like in 15 years, that's what I'm gonna be doing. Okay. I would have never believed it. But but it's so funny how God can work in your life. He could change everything in your life in an instant, just like that. And you never see it coming. Like I could try to figure out what God's gonna do, and then God's like, skirt. I'm like, hold up a second. But that's because I was going that way. God's trying to go this way. I'm just like, and then he's like, skirt. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going this way. And so it's just so funny because we really always try to make it seem like we are the ones that just control everything in our life and it's just going to go exactly the way that we imagine. We can set goals. There's nothing wrong with setting a goal. There's nothing wrong about being intentional with your life, but you also have to know that God is in control of your life. So if you know that he put a purpose on you, you don't know how it's going to happen. All you know is that you have to put in that work. You have to be faithful. You have to be serving, intentional. You have to stay focused on God and listen to his command. That's all you know. Other than that, it could go anyway. Like the way my life went, I would have never imagined any of those things would happen the way they did. I would know that I would want to help people and that's it. I wouldn't know anything else, none of the details. And so I think it's really important for us to know that. But okay, here's a fun fact. Now, after I said all of that, so in the sermon today, I was listening to this pastor and he was talking about relational intelligence. I know. I was like, that's pretty cool. Let me see what this is about. So it's like a whole thing. It's like a list of different sermons, but he's just talking. It's not like him on a podium. It's like him sitting and he's like saying the word. He's saying different scriptures and he's teaching you about different things about boundaries and different types of relationships to have in your life, like with your family, with your friends, with people, and not just like telling you what to do, but what's healthy. And then he also starts talking about commitment. And I know I did a video on commitment. I'm probably not going to go back there again. I just wanted to say this because I think that we get this definition in our head, or if we have like when there comes to things in life, especially if it's a term that we use frequently or you've heard throughout your entire life, sometimes you don't look back to research to go, really dig into the Webster's dictionary or, do some kind of study on like Psychology Today or Google or whatever else. Like most people Google, go on the first page or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. And most people don't do that. Most people don't just go on there on whatever website and research whatever books they need to figure out what the term actually means and where it actually came from. And so when you think about commitment, most people are like, "Oh, this guy won't commit to me," or this the most people don't say this girl won't commit, but there are women that do it, but you never hear somebody say that. I haven't in my entire life heard a guy or any other woman say, "Oh, she never wants to commit to anybody." I just hear people say, "Oh, she's playing games," or something like that, or whatever. But most of the time, the only time I ever hear that term is when it comes to guys. I don't know why. It's like only people think that that's only a guy thing, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, and so he's talking about commitment, and it really makes me think about what does this term actually mean? What does it actually entail? What does this consist of? And when I go to like do some research and I'm listening to the sermon, he's saying that commitment is something that you would need for a relationship. You could have a person in your life who is interested in having you as a friend, interested in having you as a person, interested in the way you look, interested in the way you talk. But the commitment is what gets them to be willing to sacrifice. Commitment is what gets someone willing to do a little more. It's not just about, oh yeah, that person's attractive, the end. It's like that person's attractive, I'm going to pursue them. It's like that person is a decent human being, I'm going to be intentional. Intentionality comes from being committed. It doesn't just come from being interested. So I just wanted to say that because that's one of those things that you hear as a term and people just kind of throw it around loosely. They don't really dig in to see what true commitment really is about. They just think about, oh, I know this is what I want, and this person doesn't want to do it. They don't really think about the intentionality that comes behind it. They don't really think about the pursuit that comes behind it. They don't really think about the fact that if someone isn't willing to commit, then that doesn't just mean that they, most people think because this person isn't committed, they're not interested. They could be interested, but not willing to commit. And the willingness to commit is what allows a guy to pursue you. It's what allows a guy to be intentional about where he wants to place you in his life. And that is so important. So as a single woman, I really feel like if other single women are watching this, that's something that you really have to know and really, really listen for things like that. Like, don't just skim by it like as if it's not something that's significant because it matters. And so now that that's over, I mean, me talking about that. So we're just going to go ahead and keep on with this video. And so when it comes to good deeds and being boastful, when the pastor was talking about being boastful in God, she said that sometimes we could get a blessing from God and we feel like, oh no, I don't want to be arrogant. I want to be humble. Oh no, this seems good, but I don't want it to make me conceited or for it to make me egotistical. But that is a blessing that God was planning on giving you. You reneged on God's blessing because you felt like being a Christian meant that you were at lack of something, but that is not what God intended for your life. He never intended for you to lack all of these things. I think this is the skewed perception of Christianity. It's really this thing that has become like a whole trend. And I think that is why most people, when they think of a Christian, they think of being broke. They think of you have to be super like at lack. You have to be so without so many things in your life in order for you to be a Christian. But God is the God of abundance. He is not intending for you to lack anything. You are saying that you don't want the things that God is blessing you with because you feel like it makes you boastful, but it makes you boastful in God. I think that is so true. When she said it, I was like, that's exactly what it is. Because we're so used to hearing that being Christian is being broke. When God does bless us with things, when He gives things to us in our life, when He gives us the job, like a real job, not just the job that you want, so you took it and you never discern with God. I mean, when He gives you that job that opens so many doors for you, and you feel like it's way too good to be true, even though God is telling you yes, and you're like, oh no, no, I'm not gonna take that. Let me just go ahead and leave because God wouldn't want me to have something that was that good. God wants you to have everything good. When you're telling yourself that, you're saying that what God is giving you isn't good enough. You're saying that you want to turn down God's blessings. Probably never thought of it like that. You probably thought, oh yeah, I'm just being humble. Being humble and being silly is two different things. You turning down a blessing that God made just for you is silly. You might think, oh, it keeps you humble. It keeps you so that you don't get arrogant or you don't get egotistical. But God intended for you to have those things. He never intended for you to just be without all the time. He never intended for you to be at lack of everything. He intended for you to be blessed on top of blessed on top of blessed with so much abundance. And when I say abundance, I don't just mean a whole bunch of money. I mean, when it comes to joy, when it comes to peace, when it comes to love, He intended for you to have those things in your life. And it's so funny because when I first, I'm only going to say this because I feel like it's relevant, not because I just want to just reminisce or, just harp on it. I just want to say this one line. And so, so when I was first thinking about like starting to date and things like that, and I met this decent person, the first thing I thought was, this has to be not God. Because why would God bless me with anything that was this good? Why would God bless me with someone who would actually treat me right? Why would He actually want to give me something that would actually be good for me when I see so many other women or so many other Christian women who are single talk about how they waited 15 years or waited 5 years or they never seem to be able to meet anybody. And yet, everywhere I go, I meet someone. Everywhere I go, there's someone else there, and I start feeling like I need to be at lack because this is what all of the other women are saying that they get. Sometimes we let somebody else's position in life, what someone else is doing, be our hindrance. We allow that to be our goal. We allow that to be the thing that we think is a barrier. Like, this is the thing that we can't break past, this barrier in life. This is the cap on our life. And when I say cap, I don't mean it like the young people. I mean, this is the thing that caps off. It caps off at this level. We feel like because we see somebody in a relationship treated like this, we can't go past that level. Because we see people wait 15 years, we can't meet someone on the first date or in the first year. Because we, straight out of high school got a job that's really, really great, we feel like we can't get it because some people have worked 15 years to be in the position that you're in, and you just get right out of college right into it, or whatever else, or out of high school right into a decent job. We can't allow somebody else's life, what they have in their life, their standard, or what God has for them, determine our cap in life. We can't allow it to be the thing that caps off our blessings, that stops the things that God has for us because we feel like we can't go beyond that. God has so much more for each and every one of us. And if we stop looking at what other people are doing, we will be able to see the blessings that God is trying to give us. Just because we accept the blessing that God gives us does not make us a bad person. If you know that it's God, don't feel like, oh no, I can't get this blessing because why would God give this to me? That's like telling God that you don't that, that you don't want to graciously accept the blessings that He's giving you. You're being ungrateful. You're not being a grateful child of God when you it's rude. It's like when somebody gives you a compliment and they're like, "Oh my gosh, girl, I really like your shoes," or "I really like your hair." And you're like, "Oh, it only costs five." Nobody asked you how much it costs, where you found it on sale. And I know like we do this because it's like some of us feel uncomfortable about, you know, getting compliments sometimes, and just be real with yourself. Don't just say, "Oh, I don't feel uncomfortable. I just love telling people because I figure other people want to buy it because they know where I got it from." I get that. And I hear what you're saying, but really take a second and think about, is it because you really want them to have the thing that you have, or is it because you feel uncomfortable in your own skin? And when people compliment you, you feel like you have to deflect. You feel like you have to tell them that you don't want to accept their compliments because you feel uncomfortable being you. Really think about that. That's how God feels when He wants to bless us with something and we tell Him, "Oh no, God, I'm just going to stay right here because you've already blessed me too much. Oh no, God, you've already given me this house. I don't need to move into a mansion." Girl, for real? Like, God can do so many things in our lives, but we are the ones that stunt our own growth. We are the ones that hold ourselves back. When we are telling ourselves that we don't deserve better, when we're telling ourselves that the best that we can get is this guy who barely wants to commit, we are literally stunning ourselves when we tell ourselves, "Oh no, I have to work this job because it's the only job that hired me." It's not the only job in the entire world. So girl, bye. Like, it's so much more than that out there for you. and guys too. So intelligent, such strong, handsome men who could be the best leaders in this entire world. You are the only thing stunting your growth. The things that are sidetracking you, the things that feel like they give you temporary satisfaction, and I don't mean just that, I mean in general, across the board. The things that you feel like are limiting you that you can't have because your brother, because your friend, because other people in your life say their girl is like this. And for girls, it's the same thing. They say their guy is like this, and you feel like this is the best that it is. This is as good as it gets. That is not as good as it gets. That's as good as it gets for them because they don't want better than that. Like I don't want to settle in my life for what somebody else has when God has so much more for me just because this is the stereotype. Just because this is what everyone else is doing. Just because statistically this is what everyone's saying. Like I'm not trying to be another statistic. I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to be used for God's glory. I'm trying to be serving. I'm trying to be obedient. I'm trying to be the head and not the tail. I'm trying to be above only and not beneath. I'm trying to be beautifully and wonderfully made. I'm trying to be walking through the valley of the shadow of death and fearing no evil because God is with me. I'm I'm trying to know that no weapon formed against me shall ever prosper because I got God in my corner. I'm trying to be the type of person that knows that he will never leave me nor forsake me. So if he'll never leave me nor forsake me, what am I afraid of? There's nothing in this world that can touch my God. There's nothing in this world that can stop what God put on my life. I'm the only one that will be holding myself back. I'm the only one that will hold myself back from a relationship. I'm the only one that will hold myself back from the job of my dreams. I'm the only person that will hold myself back from my purpose, that will hold myself back from being a great parent, a great family member, a great friend, to grow, to become a better person, to speak a life into other people, to speak a life into myself. I'm the only one that is holding myself back. God has so much for all of us. The only thing stopping us is us. Let's be boastful in God. Let's do some good deeds for people in our lives instead of just searching for the one person who's in need that everybody is helping. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with helping that person. I'm just saying let's really go in-house. Let's really look within our community, look within the areas that we're in and the things that we're doing and the people that we're surrounded with. It might even be somebody that you just saw in a store and God said, bless this person. You don't know what their situation is. They might have on a new pair of J's, and I'm not going to get into all of that. But if God is saying bless that person, I'm blessing them. If God told me to, I'm not just going to bless them just to bless them, you know. But if God is telling me to do it, I'm being obedient because I know that if God is having me help this person, somebody else is about to help me. I don't know what area it's going to be in. I don't know what he's lining up for me. I don't know what doors are about to open. And when I say doors, I mean it's people in positions that are talking that already know about me and I don't know them at all. It's people in different places that I might not be the most popular person. A lot of people might not even like my post or talk about me or follow me on Facebook or whatever the things are that people do on social media. It might be like 5 people. Out of the 5 people, it's the CEO of some company that's about to call me to come talk at a seminar or at a place that I'm going to be there with people who are well known. And I don't even know how my name got in that room, but it was God. Things like that can happen when you put your faith in God. Things like that will happen in your life when you put your faith in God, when you seek Him. Everything else is given unto you. Seek God, the kingdom, and all of its righteousness, and all will be given unto you. Everything. Everything that you could ever imagine in your mind. Like there was this pastor yesterday when I was driving home from work, and I like to listen to scripture because it gives me hype while I'm driving, so I don't get like tired, and I really feel like I'm in the Word, and I know I got a hedge of protection around me, so I feel like I'm good. So like even though I'm in my purpose and I'm doing so many things to try to help other people, and I don't mean like as a boast, I mean like because sometimes when you have a purpose on your life or you're really trying to change the world, there's these things that come at you like spiritual attacks, physical attacks, psychological, emotional attacks. And I just always pray that God keeps a hedge of protection around me so that when I'm traveling, when I'm going different places, it won't be that one person who ended up destroying a legacy. That one person that ended up destroying the change that was getting ready to take place, you know? So I want to make sure that I'm being intentional, one, every day while I'm here because I don't know how long I got. And I want to make sure that that's why I'm doing this video whenever God tells me to. I look a hot mess in some videos. People might be judging me. It really doesn't matter. If they got the word that God intended them to get, then I did the thing that God told me to do that day. And the video will live on. So this will be something that even if in my generation, nobody notices, nobody pays any attention, nobody cares, there will be someone at some point who will need this video, and it will help them in one way or another. It will help them grow. It will help them look at themselves differently instead of looking down upon themselves. It will help them see things from another perspective and know that God wants more for them. They won't just settle for somebody just because all their friends are in toxic relationships. They will be the one who looks for a healthy relationship. They will be the one that knows that, okay, I made a bunch of mistakes. I might still be making mistakes, but God is still using me. They might be the one who walks in their purpose, unlike anybody else who in their family. Other people have been given up. Other people say it's impossible, but they believe in themselves because of this video, because of the videos that God put on my heart to do while I'm serving in my purpose. Is this the only way I'm serving? No. I try to serve in other areas as well. I do my business. I have other things going on. But every time God tells me to be here, I'm here because I know that there's a greater purpose. It doesn't matter if one person watches this video. The one person who watched it was the person that God intended to see it. And it touched their heart. It changed something in them. Something in them felt like if she can do this and she's sitting in a room with a gray background, there's no extra stuff around her, and a chair that her mom gave her, then I can do this. And you can. Everybody who watches these videos, any person in the world can do anything that you put your mind to. I know it's like an old saying, people say it and people really don't believe it because they're like, oh, that's just something that people say. No, when you believe in yourself, when you are really seeking God and you believe in yourself, there is nothing that you can't do. Nothing. Like, I know you think I'm joking, but there's things that God has allowed me to do in my life that I have no other explanation but God. There's no other way that it's possible but God. And when I say that God is amazing, when I say that He really works miracles in my life, like, I know every time I do this, people are like, uh-oh, here she goes. She about to start crying again. I did yesterday's video with no tears. I really did. That was the only video that you probably are going to see with me without any tears in it. So enjoy that because I can't promise that's going to happen again. But no, I had a really serious thing happen in my group and the people I surround myself with, family, friend, whatever else. And there is no reason that that person should have survived. But God, we sit here and we really do take advantage of our lives. We take advantage of every second we get to breathe. We take advantage of the people that we get to meet, the people that we get to encounter or have in our life for a day, a month, a year, however long. We really don't appreciate the things that God allowed us to have in our life. And all the time we spent neglecting those things could have been spent in our purpose. It could have been spent encouraging. It could have been spent building on each other. It could have been spent using the things that God put in our life, the people God put in our life for His benefit. Like maybe you were selfish in a moment, and instead of thinking about how you could benefit God and serve, You thought about what you could get out of the situation. But God should have all the glory. You know, when you're doing something for God, when what you do benefits Him, benefits the kingdom, people can see the glory through your story. They can see that God is behind the things that were done. When I'm doing these videos, it's all for His glory. It's never to show like, oh, I want to do it because I want acknowledgement. I'm not going to get acknowledgement. I mean, even if I do, it won't matter because I'm doing this for God. That's how I know that my heart's in the right place. That's how I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. If I'm with someone in a relationship, or if I'm friends with someone, or if I'm in a position and I'm only there because I want to benefit myself because I like the money, or I'm only with this person because I like the way they look, not because I like their soul. And me being with them is not allowing me to be in my purpose. It's not allowing me to be better. It's not, there's no fruit because the fruit is God. Anything that is fruitful is coming from God. If any of those things don't show God in it, it's for a selfish reason. It's not for the right reason. So, in conclusion, oh my gosh, every time I try not to do a long video and then I feel it, it's like 40 some minutes, an hour. One video was like 2 hours. I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I was going to say that much, but okay. I just was doing what you told me to do. Okay. But all right. And I really should have did that in two parts. The 2 hour video when I was talking to God and God was like, stop it and start it again. And I went to go stop it. And then I felt something in my spirit and I kept going. And then God was like, you could split it in the middle of the video when I had uploaded it because I work on a video software now, like a video editor. And so I went to go upload it and I could have split it then. And then God said, no, the people who are supposed to see it are going to watch the whole thing. So I didn't split it because I was like, okay, you know, that's true. Most people are going to say, there's no way. I don't even know who this woman is. I'm not sitting through 2 hours. And there are people who are going to hear my testimony and say, thank you, God. So, in conclusion, when it comes to good deeds, make sure that you are not only helping out the people who look like they need the most help, but people who actually need your help. Serve in areas like it could be at work, it could be at a church, it could be with your family, it could be in your community, but help out somebody in some way. It doesn't always look like you giving $1,000, $200,000 to somebody. Sometimes it's just going to look like you being a helping hand to somebody that's older. Maybe it might look like you giving somebody a ride to work or helping someone with something just out of the kindness of your own heart. Maybe it's going to look like that family member or friend who really needs you in a time of weakness and you stay with them or you help them in one way or another. That's serving as well. Serving doesn't always look like you're just spending a bunch of money or you're only in a building. You could be at church, you could be at work, you could be different places. But I think it's important to know that a good deed comes from everywhere. When I was reading the Bible and it was talking about good deeds, I was reading James chapter 2, and it talked about how, you should treat the poor person just as good as you treat the rich person. And it says if they come and you have the rich person, I guess, sitting and the poor person standing or sitting on the floor because you're treating them unequally, then that's not you leading with a good deed. That's not you being faithful. And then it also went on to say that faith is more than just you saying that you're faithful. It had an example about a brother and sister and how one said to the other, they both were without food daily. And the one said to the other one that was out without food, keep warm and find good food. Not that she helped, she just said that. And it said that what benefit is it for her to say something kind without helping. And it was just an example of faith. Sometimes we think that faith is just you saying a bunch of things, but it's more than just that. A good deed, having faith, is being about that action. It's being about that life. I almost went a whole video without saying about that life, but I did it. So they're probably gonna say in the future, this is the about that life girl. That's fine as long as I'm glorifying God. And so, so we really do have to put action to our words. We have to start being intentional with our lives and don't just listen to what someone says. Really do research, really find sound evidence to back up your claims for the things that you're learning or people are saying. Don't just hang on every person's word, because the only word that you should be hanging on is the Bible. You should be focusing on God and hanging on the words of the Bible. Because, and when I say that, I know there's going to be that one person that really tries to pick up a stone and throws it at somebody. Please don't do that. I am not saying that. Don't be so literal. I mean, when it comes to how you treat people, when it comes to you being loving and kind and patient and understanding, when it comes to you treating all people equally and not just showing favoritism because you don't like the way someone looks or talks or whatever else, or their social economic status, you really have to be like Christ. And there are some good examples in the Bible. So read it for yourself, like I always say. Don't just go on my word. Like, I'm just a person that is allowing God to use as a vessel. That's it. Just like every other person who can be used for God's glory. The only difference is I am willing to be obedient most of the time. And I say most of the time because I gotta be real. I'm not gonna lie on God. Sometimes I'll be like, God, are you sure about this? Just like that one example in the beginning of this video. Like, I really felt like there's no way God could bless me with anything. You know, why would he want to bless me, but he didn't bless the other people? But I had faith. I had real hope. I had, my eye focused on God. I wasn't worried about anything else. I have everything that I need. Anything that God gives me is just extra. It's not like I need any of those things, but I'm going to be a gracious acceptor for anything that God gives me, because I really want to end this broke-minded Christianity stigma that we have in this world. Because non-believers and people who are trying to become religious are not going to know that God is the God of abundance if we keep on only thinking that we can only reach a certain ceiling. There's a ceiling on our lives. We have to know that God can break past any ceiling, any barrier, any standard. Like, this might be the status quo, but this is not God's quo. This is not God's barrier. God has barriers above the skies, beyond the skies. So there is no way that God would want us to just be at lack. So I hope that when you go out into the world, when you are out and about, that you don't just say, God is good all the time, that you really do know that God is good all the time, that you really do show people how he's blessed your life, that you really do show people kindness, and you really are Christ-like when you're in the world, not just in church or not just while you're alone, because it's easy to do the right things when you're not tested. But I also want you to know that when you do mess up, because you're human, that it doesn't mean that you're the worst person in the world. Just repent and do better. Just stay focused on God, and God will carry you the rest of the way, because he got you, and he wants you to be faithful, to really just trust in him, to boast in God.